Okay, so you want to cut through the noise, right? Get right to the heart of what's actually happening.
Yeah, be properly informed without, you know, drowning in headlines.
Exactly. And that's what you're doing today. We're taking a deep dive into all these recent reports swirling around UnitedHealth Group.
Specifically, the potential Medicare fraud allegations.
We've pulled together quite a range of sources here.
We have Forbes, A-Invest for the financial side, then the Wall Street Journal, the Daily Beast, Newsweek for the reporting details.
And our mission really is just to unpack what these reports are actually saying.
Understand the core claims, see how the company's reacting, and figure out what it all might mean.
Because it really has been a whirlwind for UnitedHealth lately.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
CEO stepping down so suddenly, the stock taking a big hit.
And now these pretty serious investigation allegations popping up.
Right.
Okay, so let's get right into it. What are the actual allegations we're talking about here?
Well, the Wall Street Journal kicked things off. They reported that the Justice Department's healthcare fraud unit is running a criminal investigation.
A criminal one. Okay.
Yes, and according to their sources, it's zeroing in on UnitedHealth Group's practices, specifically within their Medicare Advantage business.
Medicare Advantage.
Yeah.
That's the private insurance side of Medicare, basically.
Correct, where private companies provide the Medicare benefits.
So, do we know what aspects of that business are under the microscope?
That's where it gets a bit murky, publicly anyway. The exact nature of the potential criminal allegations, that hasn't been spelled out. But the Wall Street Journal did say the investigation has been active for a while, since at least last summer, was the quote.
At least last summer.
Mm.
Okay, so this isn't brand new. It's been bubbling under the surface for, what, 9 months or more?
Seems that way. And interestingly, A-Invest points out something important here.
But that
They highlight that the DOJ focusing on insurers themselves, and particularly on diagnosis coding, specifically within UnitedHealth's Optum unit. Well, that's a notable expansion, as they put it.
an expansion of their usual strategy.
Exactly. A notable expansion of how they enforce Medicare fraud rules.
So usually they might go after, say, individual doctors, but now they're looking higher up at the big insurers and how they handle coding.
That seems to be the implication. You know, diagnosis coding is how they translate a patient's conditions into codes for billing Medicare.
Right.
And if those codes get inflated up coding, it's sometimes Medicare might pay out more than it should.
Okay, I see.
And Optum, which is a huge part of UnitedHealth, handles a lot of that. So it makes sense it'd be a focus.
And the potential scale here.
A-Invest mentioned that if these allegations are proven true, we could be talking about billions of dollars in overpayment.
Billions. Wow. That's a massive potential impact, not just financially, but for the whole Medicare system, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It affects the system's stability, potentially beneficiary premiums, everything. It really raises questions about oversight.
Okay, billions. So facing allegations of that magnitude, how has UnitedHealth responded?
Well, publicly, they've pushed back quite strongly. Newsweek and the Wall Street Journal both reported statements where UnitedHealth says they have, quote, not been notified by the Department of Justice of the supposed criminal investigation reported.
So they're saying they haven't even been officially told about a criminal
It's under
brag.
their public stance. They're also strongly defending their program. Newsweek and the Daily Beast quote them saying they stand by the integrity of our Medicare Advantage program.
And didn't Newsweek say they called the journal's reporting deeply irresponsible?
They did. That's a very forceful denial. They're clearly disputing the reporting itself.
Very strong words.
It is. But, you know, it's important to see this denial in context. This isn't exactly the first time they've faced scrutiny.
Right, you mentioned that earlier. This isn't happening in a vacuum. What else has been going on?
Well, back in February, the Wall Street Journal and Newsweek reported on a civil fraud investigation, also looking into UnitedHealth's Medicare practices.
Ah, okay. A civil one.
Yes. And interestingly, UnitedHealth called those reports misinformation at the time, too.
A pattern, perhaps.
Possibly. Also in February, Senator Chuck Grassley started his own inquiry into their Medicare billing, asking for detailed info.
So regulators and lawmakers have definitely had their eyes on UnitedHealth's Medicare operations for a bit now.
It certainly looks that way, suggests there might be ongoing concerns from authorities about how things are run there.
And is this kind of scrutiny limited just to UnitedHealth, or is it broader?
It seems broader. The Wall Street Journal mentioned another DOJ lawsuit just earlier this month, actually, accusing other big health insurers of paying kickbacks to brokers, you know, to steer patients towards their Medicare Advantage plans.
Okay, so the whole Medicare Advantage sector is feeling the heat.
It seems like it. It points to a wider government focus on practices within the program. And the Daily Beast also noted an antitrust investigation into UnitedHealth specifically that apparently kicked off in February this year, too.
Antitrust as well.
Wow.
So regulatory pressure seems to be mounting from multiple angles.
Definitely feels that way, like the environment is just getting tougher.
And all of this is happening while the company itself has been facing some pretty significant headwinds recently.
Absolutely. The stock price, for one, it took a big hit.
How big?
Forbes and the Wall Street Journal said about 7-8% initially, right after the criminal probe news broke, but the Daily Beast, they mentioned a, quote, 50% collapse in the share price over the last month.
50%? That's enormous.
It is. Year-to-date figures from Forbes and the Journal put it down around 39-40%. That level of investor reaction, it signals real worry, about the risks maybe in the whole managed care sector could ripple out.
A huge drop in confidence, and then tied into this time frame was the CEO's departure, Andrew Whitty.
Yes, quite abrupt, citing personal reasons, according to, well, pretty much everyone, Forbes, WSJ, Daily Beast, Newsweek.
And that happened right as they pulled their financial forecast for 2025.
Exactly. They suspended the forecast, blaming rising medical costs. The Journal, Daily Beast, and Newsweek all covered that timing.
And they brought back the former CEO, Stephen Emsley, to step in.
Correct. All those same outlets reported Hemsley's return. It's quite a lot of leadership turmoil right when they're under this intense spotlight.
It really is. And we also have to remember that terribly tragic event from last December.
Yeah, the murder of Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealth. Just awful. Forbes, the Daily Beast, Newsweek have all covered the ongoing trial of Luigi Mangione.
And the Daily Beast noted how that event also seemed to spark a lot of public anger about the insurer's policies.
It did. It highlighted some underlying tensions there. So, yeah, just immense pressure from, well, everywhere, it seems.
It really does. Newsweek also brought up comments from Republican Representative Greg Murphy.
Right. He was pretty blunt. Accused UnitedHealth of potential upcoding and called some billing practices possibly immoral, even if, technically legal.
That really gets at that tension, doesn't it? Between just following the rules and sort of the ethics of healthcare billing.
It does. And Newsweek also dug up a past legal case. It was dismissed, apparently, but it alleged $2 billion in unsupported diagnoses.
$2 billion.
Yeah. Though the judge hasn't formally ruled on that dismissal recommendation yet, according to the report. But still, it shows their billing has faced legal challenges before.
So a history there. And let's not forget the Change Healthcare cyber attack last year.
Oh, absolutely. Newsweek reminded us of that massive disruption to payments across the healthcare system. Change is their tech unit.
Right. It just feels like one major challenge right after another for them.
It really does.
Okay, so switching gears slightly. How is the market digesting this latest news? What's the analysis from A-Invest telling us?
Well, A-Invest definitely confirms that big stock price plunge. And they note its impact on the Dow Jones because, UnitedHealth is such a big component.
Makes sense.
But interestingly, they also say some analysts think the sell-off might be, quote, overdone.
Overdone? Why would they think that, given everything we've just discussed?
Couple reasons. A-Invest points out that the current stock price puts UnitedHealth at a pretty steep discount.
Compared
to its own historical average valuation, and also compared to its peers in the managed care industry.
Right.
They also kind of draw a parallel. They look back at past DOJ probes into big tech companies. Often there was initial panic, the stock dropped, but then it recovered once the dust settled.
That's an interesting point. Markets hate uncertainty, right?
Exactly. And A-Invest also reminds us just how massive UnitedHealth is in Medicare Advantage. It accounts for, something like 79% of their revenue?
Wow, that's the vast majority.
Yeah, it is. So while more regulation is clearly a risk, the idea that this whole massive segment would just, vanish, it seems unlikely given how many people rely on it.
So despite all the turbulence, their sheer size and market dominance offer some kind of floor, perhaps.
That seems to be the thinking for some analysts. Even Barclays, they lowered their price target on the stock. But A-Invest notes it still implies potential upside from where it is now.
Right.
And crucially, A-Invest stresses this is still speculative. There are no official charges filed in this criminal probe yet.
Still allegations at this stage.
Correct. So they float the idea that this whole situation, this sell-off, might actually be a rare entry point for investors looking long-term. If, and it's a big if, the company can navigate all these challenges.
Okay, let's try and wrap this all up. Pull the threads together.
Sounds good.
We have the Justice Department reportedly conducting a criminal investigation focused squarely on UnitedHealth Group's Medicare Advantage business.
Right. Well, UnitedHealth denies even being notified about that specific criminal probe, and they're very strongly defending their program, calling the reporting deeply irresponsible.
And this news doesn't exist in isolation. It comes after other government scrutiny, civil probes, lawmaker inquiries.
Plus that sudden CEO change, the big stock drop, and all those other pressures we talked about, like the Change Healthcare hack and the aftermath of the Thompson tragedy.
Yet, despite the market's pretty harsh reaction, some analysts are suggesting maybe it's an overreaction.
Pointing to the company's valuation, historical parallels, and its huge footprint in the Medicare Advantage market as reasons why it might bounce back, potentially offering a chance for long-term investors.
Exactly. This whole situation, it really shines a light on that complex, sometimes difficult relationship between private insurance and government health programs like Medicare Advantage, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The level of oversight needed, the potential for fraud, these are constant issues in that space.
So thinking about this, it really raises some big questions for you, the listener. What are the wider implications here? If government scrutiny keeps increasing, what does that mean for the future role private companies play in Medicare?
And how might all this affect the actual care people get and what it costs them, especially if they rely on Medicare Advantage? It forces you to think about that balance, between private business and public health goals. Where's the right line? What key questions does this whole deep dive bring up for you?